a great holiday. And those that are still celebrating, what day is today? 7th day of Passover, right? And of course, it's a week from last Good Friday. It's almost a week from Easter. So hopefully everybody had a great vacation, which I think a lot of people are on vacation this week. As was just noted, because everybody's telling me, boy, it was great. I flew in here. There's no traffic. How many people had traffic this morning? Anybody? Sure, everybody's away. And here we are. But anyway, so thank you for coming, because I know you didn't have to be here. And incredibly, there's a bunch of other events. There's never events this day because of this week. And today there were just a bunch of events this morning. So I don't understand it. But anyway, thank you for coming. I want to thank, first of all, we have a great speaker coming here and his partners from groupgifting.com. But first I want to introduce, by the way, someone who was very much involved with Tyler and I, and that is one of the 6 original founders of ListNet, and that's our dear friend Peter Goldsmith. Peter, stand up, say hi. It was, I think it's, Tyler, it's got to be, Peter, what is it, 17 years ago, I think now, right? About 17 years? When Peter, Tyler, and I, and 3 other gentlemen started ListNet. So I don't know where the time went. And we're still 39 years old. I don't know how that happens, but I think our kids are almost 39. But anyway, long time ago. And now Execuleaders, by the way, is in our 9th year. This is, what number Executive Breakfast today? 58. And it's our 68th event at Carlisle on the Green, if you can believe that. 68 events here, and I think it's even more, but we say 68. But it is our 58th event. So I know some of you were at the first one at Village Office Supply in the warehouse. Remember when? Anybody remember what the password was to that preview event?
Swordfish.
What, Bob? Green socks was the password to get into our event in the warehouse, and you know, Newsday even wrote about it. You needed a password to get in. It was a great event. We had like 500 people there, and that was the start of Execuleaders. So here, 9 years later. Okay, I also want to thank, real quick, I want to thank, first of all, Joe Rafano, Media Mechanics, our video guy, jingle guy, commercial guy, and also, if you don't know it, Joe's been a musician, I think, since before he was born. I think in the womb he was strumming in there. And Joe is with the Beatles cover band, and I bet you a bunch of you have seen him all around Long Island and New York and Tri-State, the Liverpool Shuffle. So, and also, by the way, if you didn't know it, Joe, can I tell him?
Tell him.
Joe was also, how many people were fans of Herman's Hermits and the Monkees? Come on, I got the albums right in my basement. Joe was a Herman's Hermit and was a monkey. So give him a big round of applause, Joe Rafano. I also want to thank Steve Swimmer up front, our credit card guy. I want to thank Mark Seritar for our music guy. And Mark, you have an event coming up. What's the Mother's Day, right?
Yes, we have the 19th-piece big band. When Tommy goes, the big band stuff. Frank Sinatra, ballroom, swing, pop, Latin. We might have dancing.
How'd you get all those guys together to play with you?
Well, everybody.
You know a lot of people.
20% discount to Execuleaders.
Yeah, but where's it going to be?
At Konig's in Floral Park.
Konig's a great place, great band, and we thank you for all your help. I also want to thank, where's Nick Matera from Best Buy, Mindshift. Where's Nick? He's out front. I want to thank him big time for helping us out. As well as Neil Marconi from 3JsLimosOutThere.com. I want to thank him for all his help. And Bill Mosley, where's our photographer? Bill, thank you very much. You know, Bill does our shots every single event, so we want to thank him. And I also want to thank, here's a big help, of course, is our one and only, one of our co-founders, VP, chair of everything, Bob Marino, and head of our facilitators. Bob, stand up, MPP. As well as his cohort there, Frank. Frank, stand up. This is Frank. So Frank and Bob, they're tag team. MTP Auto Leasing, thank you, Frank. And make sure you get all their cards. Okay, I also want to thank, we have some board members in the crowd tonight. And Bob Marino, of course. Jim Fleming, new place, by the way. Jim Fleming is now director at World Class Abstract, switch title companies there. And also, I want to thank without this guy, you know, we wouldn't have been able to start all this. And you know, he's one of my mentors for many, many years, and also one of the original people with us at ListNet 17 years ago. And that's none other than Michael Strauss. Mike, stand up. Come on, stand up. Stand up. Mike, by the way, is, if you didn't know it, we rely on him for great advice, and it's well worth it, because Mike's background is, if you didn't know this either, Mike is one of the former heads of American Express. So, you know, we get a lot of good advice from Mike. And also, if you've seen the papers lately or releases and things in the past year, he's also chairman of an electrical company called Be Safe Electrics. And a lot of good things coming out of that. Matter of fact, they got stuff going across the country in Lowe's very soon. But Be Safe Electrics, check that out. Mike is also the chairman of that company. Now, without further ado, we're going to bring on our speaker today, and that is very dear friend and colleague and starter of the tech world out here with Peter, myself, and a few other people 17 years ago. And you know him as being the head of Envision.com, which was sold to Mindshift Technologies, which was now bought, I think when did they sign it? Last day of the year, I guess, of 11, right? Which, you know, Tyler, who started the company with Eric and Mark and David and a few other people, and it is now, Envision.com is now owned by Best Buy. Yes, the Best Buy, that company now, closed on the last day of 2011. So we got someone here with a lot of intelligence on the industry and technology, and of course on Long Island. But his new company, GroupGifting.com, which he's the CEO, is a global company, and it's very interesting. And Tyler's going to talk about a lean startup. And if you read that book, does anybody know the name of that book? All right, Tyler's going to give you that name. He's going to discuss that, and how GroupGifting.com came about, and what it means to all of us and all the other businesses. So without further ado, our dear friend, CEO of GroupGifting.com, give it up for Tyler Roy.
Thanks, Rich. Good morning, everybody. I got my little remote here for the projector. So, got an interesting story for you here this morning, for everybody here this morning. As Rich said, I'm Tyler Roy. I'm the CEO of GroupGifting.com, and we're a new social media, social commerce startup here based on Long Island. And I'm going to tell you some stories and give you some insights from some of the things that are happening within our startup venture, but also tell you something about lean startup, which is something that you haven't heard about. You can wonder how you live without it, because it's some very interesting things happening. So lean startup is it's a term coined and trademarked by Eric Rice, who wrote a book by the same name. Louder? I'm hearing louder. Let's see here.
You just hold it closer.
Hold it closer. Is that better?
Yeah.
By Eric Rice, the author of the book Lean Startup. And to many people, what Lean Startup is really the magic formula for success in Silicon Valley startups. So if you didn't know you were coming here this morning to learn what makes Silicon Valley startups successful, well, that's what kind of this is all about. There's really been a phenomenon happening over the last couple of years, that the information of all the startups and all the activity over the years in Silicon Valley is being turned into sort of a scientific method. And we'll get more into it momentarily. The book's based loosely on the lean manufacturing principles that were pioneered many years ago in Japan, companies like Toyota, and the book is quite fascinating. The goal of the document, like I said, was to create sort of a scientific method, taking a look at all the startup successes in Silicon Valley and trying to see what could the world learn from what transpired within some of these phenomenally successful companies. And of course, some of the phenomenal failures that we've all heard about over the years too, some very interesting ones certainly during the dot-com days. His method, and the method that's sort of strived to, bless you, is basically rapid prototyping, so that you can test market assumptions, so that you're not just building a product without getting any feedback from anyone, that you're actually listening to what the marketplace and what your potential customers might want, and not building products and services in a vacuum. The idea is you're trying to eliminate doing unnecessary work, because what do startups like us have to work with, right? We have our startup capital, and perhaps more important, our startup time. The days that come and go very quickly. You see how quickly the months go by. It's already the middle of April, right? So you have to protect the time, and the idea is with Lean Startup is that the companies that have figured out how to not burn cycles of time and to find faster fit between the products they're trying to create and what the market is looking for are the organizations that are the most successful. And obviously, everybody's searching for traction, and that's where this is all about. So the implications of the work are really far-reaching. Eric's book is not alone. In fact, it's part of a series of books, and I'll put this slide up again at the end so you don't need to rush to write these titles down now, but there are some very interesting books that are driving the movement, for lack of a better word. It actually is really a movement. Lean Startup and the 4 Steps to Epiphany, written by someone named Stephen Blank, who also wrote another book called The Startup Owner's Manual. These books are really rather new. I mean, we'll start with Lean Startup, was actually published in September of 2011, and the book in the middle, Business Model Generations, was October 2011. And the one in the lower right corner, the Startup Owner's Manual, was actually March 1st, 2012. So what I'm basically saying is that the formulas for success that are being learned about these Silicon Valley startups are just now finding their way into documentation and actually getting out there and spreading beyond sort of the inner circles of Silicon Valley. You weren't among the privileged few who got to attend networking events in Silicon Valley and listen to the likes of Stephen Blank maybe 5 years ago when he wrote The 4 Steps to Epiphany. You may not have ever heard anybody try to uncover and unlock the secrets to success and try to bring that information out and help you be more successful in your business or your startup. I call it a movement, and there are chapters popping up all over the country that are having conversations like the one we're going to have here today, and then forming groups of startups to share the concepts and principles behind Lean Startup. This is relatively current information, 278 groups, 58,000 members in 144 cities in 31 countries are gathering around and having roundtable meetings and trying to foster success among their startups and their communities. And this is something that obviously we'd like to see happen here on Long Island. And why is this so important? Well, this data, a couple of years old actually, but apparently it takes some time to compile the data and differentiate between startup new jobs and jobs in general. But new firms are creating about 3 million jobs a year, while older companies are losing 1 million jobs annually. Now these numbers are actually, again, a couple of years old. This Kaufman Foundation seems to be the most reputable place that compiles these kinds of numbers. Their data is not completely up to date. But ultimately, the moral of the story from everything that I'm reading is that there's virtually no job creation taking place in large corporations, and that it is all startups that are creating the jobs. And that, considering that 90% of all startups fail, I think the moral to the story is pretty obvious, right? If we could maybe bring that down to 87% that fail, we'd have 30% more job creation, right? So there's really a very significant tale to be told as it relates to getting startups to be more successful. So getting a little bit more about the core principles of Lean Startup. Lean Startup is not about cost, it's about speed. So basically, Lean doesn't mean you're just bootstrapping it and you're doing everything on the cheap. I mean, those things are obvious. All startups are trying to do that. They're trying to be smart with their money. Even ones that raise a bunch of money should try to be cheap. But it's really about the speed at which you get through the process of learning what the marketplace wants and adjusting your product and your service offerings to be what the market's looking for.